In today's Meta Monday episode, it's time to look at upgrades to UlforceVeedramon with BT14. Moving into EX5 as well, there aren't a lot of cards you could add, which makes this deck fairly consistent and finalized until Nationals. As always, I'll cover the card by card, the strengths, the weaknesses, and the combos. This deck runs 4 level 2s, 12 level 3s, 10 level 4s, 7 level 5s, 6 level 6s, 4 option cards, and 10 Tamers. In playtesting, this deck has many flexible spots and ratios for you to tinker with. I'll explain each one as I go, but without further ado, here we go. For your level 2s, this deck runs 4 Bukamon. This egg is amazing in that previously you needed to add DP buffs with Tamers like V-Tamer Taikamiya and BT2 Rina Shinamaya. With this egg, you don't really need to do that anymore. And as a result, you have some new creative avenues with this deck. Do keep in mind that the text for Bukamon in the official English translation currently says, while your opponent has no Digimon with more Digivolution cards than this Digimon gains jamming. The official Japanese text says equal to or more, so be wary about promoting if your opponent has a Digimon with the same number of Digivolution sources. Needless to say, you have source strip methods that can make it very easy. For substitutions, the only option I'd consider is BT11-Wanyamon. Because you have so many Tamers, you can guarantee some card draw. The only downside is, card draw scares me more with Mirage Galgamon in the format. And with jamming, your UlforceVeedramon is less dependent on Tamers that give extra DP. Level 3 wise, this deck runs 12. First up, it's the 4 mandatory copies of BT11-Veedramon. This Digimon is a search off the top 3 for a Digimon with Veedramon in its name, and a blue Tamer. In total, this bottom decks 11 of your level 3s, 6 of your level 4s, 3 of your level 5s, and all your option cards. For a total of 25 other potential cards that get bottom decked when you play this. While that may seem high, its inheritable is highly worth it. Gaining a memory when a blue Tamer is played definitely supplements your top end. EX1-Veedramon also helps in some ways because you unsuspend and can gain memory. But while these are your primary Veedramons, the rest of your rookies will get 4 Gomamons for bodies that float with your UlforceVeedramon. Unless your Digimon is bounced or de-digivolved, having a pending Gomamon on deletion is nice, considering this Digimon can't be blocked. But the last 2 slots go for Sayakomon for reducing those Digivolution costs, since you know, training options are rampant. I'm indecisive whether this deck necessarily needs Sayakomon, as this deck is really aggressive, and having these feel like you slow the deck down. But that is a decision for you, my viewers, on what works best for you. In regards to substitutions, you might consider using Madoki Betamon instead, if memory gain by effects is a problem. This primarily deals with not only the memory boost, but other decks like Fenrir Lugamon from gaining memory when they play a Digimon with the SOC, or Dark Animal trait by an effect. But with so many Tamers playing training cards now, Sayakomon definitely holds its own. Alternatively, if you want to base your entire level 4 and 5 line with Veedramon Digimon, you'll want to stick with just Vmons. Otherwise, your Digimon won't be able to digivolve into a Gold Veedramon, for example. In terms of another floating body, BT13-Magnamon also provides some ability like Gomamon, but strictly only works with Vmon. Level 4 wise, you know the drill. 4 mandatory copies of Veedramon from BT11. This Digimon has a passive which can draw you a card when a blue Tamer is played. Its inheritable gains you a memory when a blue Tamer is played. Pretty standard. For the remainder of your level 4s, there's a few avenues to go with. I playtested with other Veedramons, but overall felt that if you're going to utilize Gold Veedramon, you need to base your deck with more Vmons. Magnamons also need to have purely Vmons as a base, because neither of these Digimon can digivolve off of a blue Digimon. Unless of course, you're utilizing the black box text. However, hybrids are the way to go. With Wanamon, this Digimon can slot other Digimon underneath it when digivolving. Whether you slot Gomamon or another Vmon for memory gain can be advantageous, especially if you have Zudomon Ace in hand. Because UlforceVeedramon typically plays more aggro, Lanamon was the one I went with at 4 copies. Kumamon on the other hand can be highly effective when you have multiple Joes in play, considering the Digivolution could be just for 1 or even 0 memory. These were some fun combat tricks. But if you think Millith loot might be a problem, Promo Veedramon 0 is definitely another consideration, especially since you can return 3 non-Digi-Egg cards from trash at the bottom of the deck in any order. I digress though, on to level 5s. For this build, you run a lot of blue Tamers, that at this point, you really need 4 copies of BT11 Arrow Veedramon. I think 2 has been working well so far, considering you can utilize your level 5s with Bukamon to attack and jam. Not to mention, this Digimon with BT14-Zudomon, oh yeah. This Digimon is going to be a staple in a lot of blue decks moving forward. But the last level 5's definitely gotta be starter deck 8 Arrow Veedramon. While true you already have jamming from Bukamon, it's not a guarantee if your opponent has a Digimon with equal or more sources. Its inheritable in playtesting has been not that frequent when it comes up. I used to have this at higher copies for the extra security attack +1. But one problem. You need 8 or more cards in hand. Because you don't utilize Wanyamon or any other Digimon like Veedramon to draw, you actually don't have a frequent way to add cards. This is where you could adjust the Tamers again, but I've been having some fun with my own build. For your level 6s, of course, UlforceVeedramon from BT11 is your mandatory 4-of. This Digimon is your aggressor and can return a level 3 or lower Digimon when it unsuspends. However, for each blue Tamer you have, increase the level by 1. But in my opinion, I think the most valuable thing about this Digimon is the fact that it can play a blue Tamer from your hand without paying the cost. There aren't a lot of Digimon that can play blue Tamers, at least not without a hefty cost. But because of this effect, your turn when you play a Tamer, unsuspend this Digimon. This isn't once per turn, which is why UlforceVeedramon is so powerful. But what other level 6 options could you run? There are a few options to actually consider. UlforceVeedramon X is a viable option, but the only downside is that this Digimon can only return the lowest level Digimon. Which means with wider building boards, you can't target the biggest threat on the board. Mirage Galgomon is another option, but the issue with this pick is the fact that it's not easily searchable, considering Veemon bottom decks it. Likewise, I considered Jumbo Gamamon, but I had one other idea. BT13, UlforceVeedramon. Hear me out. This Digimon's when Digivolving can strip a lot of sources, and while true you can't bounce anything with its when Digivolving effect, you can if you play a blue Tamer. In some testing it comes up especially as an out to Quartzmon. Is it perfect? Nah, I don't think so, but I do think it helps more than UlforceVeedramon X. In regards to option cards, you've got your typical Sorai for the Shine Greymon, Fenrir Lugamon, and Royal Knight matchups. Mental training of course to add any blue card in the deck, whether it be Tamer, Option, or Digimon. Which takes me to the final 10 cards of the deck, Tamers. Davis Motomiya lets you add any blue Digimon to your hand, and out of this deck bottom decks all of your other Tamers and 4 option cards. Rina Shinomiya from BT11 is a mandatory 4-of and the most expensive element of this deck. Because of Rina, when UlforceVeedramon attacks, you can suspend Rina in order to activate UlforceVeedramon's when Digivolving effect, i.e. play a blue Tamer, and because of that, you unsuspend. For this variant, I go with Joe Keto for the strip of any source and gain a memory on my turn, whenever a source is stripped. And the last Tamer, of course, goes to Tommy Himi. I don't think 4 is necessary, but with 2 you have a chance to also have that Digimon that can stun Digimon without sources. There are a lot of Tamers here you can substitute with. First, V-Tamer Tai Kamiya. This Tamer can get you the extra draw that the deck is obviously lacking, but with Mirage Galgomon present, some mandatory card draw effects can cause the turn to switch back to your opponent. If you don't like Davis Motomiya, Kiyoshiro Higashi Miturai from BT9 could also be used for the draw, but it's highly dependent on you attacking with a level 5 or higher. For strengths and weaknesses, this deck is extremely aggressive, but with the lack of draw power, whatever the first hand is, it will take you to victory or the next game. But in terms of control, you have ways to remove important inheritables that Digimon absolutely want in this game. Really, this deck performs similarly to what I had been playing with already with Ulforce. The only difference is definitely the draw power. But in terms of control elements, it definitely feels stronger. Quartzmon is the number 1 card that I fear with this deck, considering you won't get your unsuspend effects. As for combos, you're doing the usual. Going first, raising, digivolving, promoting, attack, digivolve, and trap with Zudomon Ace if you can. Digivolving into UlforceVeedramon the following turn, and going off. While jamming does help you against higher DP Digimon, the other problem sometimes can be security bombs. But all in all, this deck has been really fun to play, and at times in my matchups with Fenrir Lugomon and War Greymon can definitely keep up. What are your thoughts, and what would you love to see next to the channel? Let me know your thoughts as I craft more deck profiles for BT14 and potentially EX5. This is Digi-Panda, logging out.